Even though 90s boom bap is often called the golden era of hip hop, very few people talk about how revolutionary the production was from this era. The beatmakers of this time introduced so many production techniques that are still used today, and often they don't get the credit that they deserve. So today, let's change that. We're gonna go through 3 legends of the golden era and break down their production and explain what made them so revolutionary. I'll even talk about how you can use these ideas in your beats to this day. So first, let's talk about the genius who probably doesn't get enough recognition, Pete Rock. His fingerprint on hip-hop has spanned across generations, having worked with icon after icon, and it was his production that helped him set him apart. But what was it that Pete Rock did so differently than everyone else? Well, I think this beat here is a great example.
I shut him down. I shut him down. I shut him down.
What makes his beats so unique is the sheer number of samples used flawlessly. In an era where most producers would take a sample, loop it, and then just add drums, Pete Rock was going above and beyond. Pete himself talks about his approach to combining different sounds and layers, where he almost creates a collage. This technique is used all the time nowadays, and you could say it was thanks to him. In this beat, for example, he uses at least 4 different samples and is able to piece them together in a way that just sounds flawless. So here is the first sample that's used.
One day you're here, baby, and then you're gone.
Pete starts off by filtering this down to its baseline and loops it. From here, we move on to the next sample. And here, Pete filters and loops this horn phrase while programming it at different volumes. This makes it feel as though it's fading in and out. Now, even though the sample does have its own drums in it, Pete Rock then decides to begin layering his own drums in using this sample.
The sun used to shine.
He uses one-shots from this sample to thicken up the drums in the beat. But he's not done yet. To create more fullness to the beat overall, he adds yet another layer of drums and ambiance using this sample.
You out there?
And you can hear how much more full this layer makes this beat sound. Pete Rock's sample multi-layering is absolutely legendary. Beat after beat, Pete Rock was able to make this technique look easy, which it absolutely is not. For those trying to do this, you will notice a few things here. For one, notice what kinds of pieces are being taken and filtered from each sample. First, we have a bass line, a horn, and high-end ambiance. These layers exist in different frequency zones, making it easier to piece them all together, almost one on top of each other. Forcing multiple samples together that sit in the same space will make this technique much harder if you want to do this yourself. Now, the next producer on this list is someone who Pete Rock actually influenced, as they mentioned Pete as one of their favorite producers ever. The person who I'm talking about is the master behind the Wu-Tang Clan, the legendary Rizza. Commonly known as a mad genius, his production involved a layer of sample manipulation rarely seen before. A great example that shows this off is Ice Cream.
Yo, honey dip, summertime, fine jerry dripping. Seen you on pickings with a bunch of chickens, how you clicking?
Now let's break this beat down to show what makes it and Rizza so special. Here's a sample that was used for this beat. So first things first, Rizza loops this section of the sample here. It's pretty remarkable how clean and well recorded this sample sounds and how Rizza eventually turns it into this grimy, dirty beat. But so far you can see this sample is pitched up. From here, Rizza does a lot of frequency reduction and audio treatment. But what makes this beat unique is how Rizza starts his layering. Even though Rizza says Pete Rock is one of his favorite producers, and you can see a similar layering philosophy with Rizza's approach here, he takes his layering in a different direction. In this beat, he decides to use the exact same sample, but just finds another piece within it. He then isolates the single note here and decides to play this as an instrument within the same beat. This technique was made possible with the use of a keyboard sampler that Rizza happened to stumble upon, and this is what helped Rizza introduce a layer of stretching and repitching and manipulation never seen before. So if you want to do this with your beats, there is something that you'll notice about this sample. This alternate section of the exact same sample probably wouldn't allow for this type of manipulation. You can hear there are multiple layers of guitars playing different notes at the exact same time, making it much harder to create a pattern that would make sense while repitching. But the piece that Rizza uses is just far more simple. It's just a single note within the sample. And this is why if you watch any of my other sampling videos, I always say that finding minimal, simple samples like this can help you unlock much more ideas like this. It's what gives you the ability to manipulate like this in the first place. Now the next legendary producer from this era that we're going to talk about is DJ Premier. Many people say DJ Premier as their favorite producer of all time. My favorite producer, The Alchemist included, and you can see Premier's influence bleed into the future generations of producers. For example, let's take the beat to Represent. Here, DJ Premier uses this sample that's from an OST made for silent films. And he uses this for Represent. Or let's take another Nas song that DJ Premier produced. Nas is Like.
And of course, NAS are the letters that spell.
Here, DJ Premier uses a number of strange samples yet again. The beat starts with this strange sound of a bird chirping. This comes from a sound library of sound effects. And for the main part of this beat, those famous strings actually come from a religious spoken word record.
Divinity and humanity.
And here's how it's used for this beat. So in an era where producers were almost always looking for jazz and soul records, DJ Premier's openness to finding unusual records influenced future generations. And it's no surprise why. DJ Premier himself says that he used to be a punk rocker who was into a wide array of music from lots of different genres. And I believe this kind of openness helped him introduce much more originality into his sound, which is true for every producer. Like I always say, there's nothing more boring than listening to beats made by someone who just only listens to hip hop. Now obviously there are many more legends from the golden era that I haven't gone over in this video. So if you'd like to see a part 2 to this video, let me know down in the comments who you'd like to see included. Like and subscribe, and if you're a big fan of boom bap beats, check out this video next to me. Other than that, I'll see you next week. Bye bye.